So the things that you'll need for class today most likely are, besides your mat, you'll need your 2 yoga blocks, your massage ball, your small massage ball, your yoga strap for sure, and a blanket. I recommend a yoga blanket or a thick blanket that you can sit on or cover up with during Shavasana, or also use as a prop if needed to give you more support. What else? I think that's it. So find a comfortable place to sit, a comfortable way to be seated for just a few minutes. And we're going to make sure that the sits bones or the hips can feel really connected to whatever is beneath you. Whether that's a block or a blanket, or if you're just sitting flat on the floor or even on a chair, just finding a way to really rock the pelvis forward and back, and maybe side to side, just shifting your weight. And find what feels like center on the bottom there, on your bottom. And imagine that those sits bones, or even if you aren't able to really tap into or feel into those tips of those bones, then just feel the butt cheeks, right? The buttocks muscles, and just start to imagine that they're starting to sink a little deeper, as if they're like seeds, and they're just gonna kind of start to sink deeply into the earth. With every exhale, just allowing the sits bones, the buttocks muscles, to start to settle. And you might even, as you do this, feel that soil, that feeling of fertile soil or earth, starting to rise into maybe the hip bones, the frontal hip bones. Exhaling and sinking in, just really planting yourself in this space, in this moment, with your awareness and intention. And as your lower body gets more grounded, feel the shoulders also softening and dropping down a little more away from your ears. And in between the shoulders and the hips, become aware of your spine, from the very tip of your tailbone as it moves all the way up to the base of your neck. And allow the spine to be a sprout or a stem of a flower. So feeling it growing, rising tall. And we'll allow our limbs, our arms in particular, to be extensions of this flower. So we'll take our hands, bring them to your heart, and take a breath there. And let it out. And then as we inhale, let's open up the arms, reaching out and up, whatever feels like your flower today. And as you exhale, bring the petals back in toward the heart, closing up. And then inhale, opening the petals, reaching for the sun, taking big breath in, life force in, and then exhaling on your own, with your own breath as your guide. Keep moving in this dance of opening the flower, opening your petals, and then closing. matching the movement to your breath. So maybe your flower will be a little smaller to match the breath, or maybe it'll be really big. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You can even be a little playful with this movement, playing with different directions that your petals want to go, making the movement a little more fluid, a little softer. As your petals open and close, are you still aware of your roots, of the lower half of your body? Let's do one more. When you come back to center, allow one hand to rest on your heart and one hand on your belly. Just breathe here naturally. We'll start with an opening prayer. God, carry me today. Give me healing hands, a quiet mind, gentle speech, and a forgiving heart. Let me feel you in my chest. Let me feel you in my limbs. And let me feel you by my side. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Hanotein Laya Koach. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who gives strength to the weary. Taking a moment to really let this blessing sink in. This blessing for ourselves, for each other, for the world at large. May we have strength from our weariness. May we have a renewed enthusiasm for life. We started with our flower breathing. You can let your hands rest where they are or let them relax however you want them. But we started with our flower breathing, and I was thinking about this blessing, that's in our daily blessings for daily miracles, the Nisim B'chol Yom, this blessing of giving thanks for giving the strength to the weary. And I feel weary. I don't know about you. I'm probably not the only one that's feeling weary. And then I thought about the flower, and I like to find little truths in nature. And what I just thought this morning is that flowers they don't really get weary, right? They're not consciously waking up in the morning and being like, I don't know if I'm going to open up today. I don't think I'm going to open my petals. The sun's there, but I'm not into it. I'm tired, right? For the most part, every flower that is opening to the sun will do that. When the sun comes out, it opens, it says yes to life. And the reason it's not weary in my, my little philosophical mind is that it has what it needs. It's tapped into what it needs. So it's getting, it's rooted in the earth. It's rooted in what sustains it, right? It's connected to what feeds it. The sun feeds the flower, and it's nourished by what supports it. So the life force of water, right? It's just being nourished by the life of water. And as spiritual beings living in this physical body, we need to seek out, like the flower seeks the sun, we need to seek out those things that strengthen us when we feel weary, or that nourish us and give us a renewed enthusiasm for life. And sometimes we get so weary, it's hard to just try to do that, but it's inside of us. The impulse is there to reach toward the light. So that's my encouragement, is just to, we'll do our yoga today. We'll do movements that mobilize the spine and get that cerebral spinal fluid kind of pumping through the body, through the spine. We'll do some twists, some hip opening, and just brain balancing, and just a nice, fairly gentle practice just to renew our strength, and give us some time to connect emotionally and spiritually, to like remember what is strengthening us in these times that are really challenging and seem to be never ending sometimes. So let's get started. So I'm going to have you come onto your back, and we're going to start right away with some mobility for the hips and spine. And I'm going to have the knees bent here with the feet about hip width apart, and bring your hands to your hip bones. And just start to press into your feet and rock your pelvis forward and back. So the gluteal muscles won't come off the floor, but you're just doing a little rocking forward and back. And as you rock your pelvis, you'll feel your head moving up and down a bit on the mat, because the spine, it's all connected, right? So you move one area and everything else responds. So we do one thing to strengthen us, or one thing to lift our mood and our spirits, and then there's a lot of other things that are affected by that. So no movement, no action is small or irrelevant. So just noticing how your hips are moving today, and see if you can make that movement really smooth. So as you inhale, you're going to arch your back, so that means you're creating a little gap between your lower back and the floor. And on your exhale, you'll press your lower back into the floor and tuck your tailbone just a tiny bit toward your knees or toward the sky, without lifting your tush off the floor. And with the breath as your guide for how fast you move through this, you'll just go back and forth. Good. And then go ahead and pause and bring your knees into your chest and give them a squeeze. You can have your knees close together or open, maybe a little bit of both, and rock from side to side, and just give your back a little massage against the mat beneath you. Good. And then do some ankle circles, both directions. And then bring your feet to the floor with their knees still bent. I'm going to use a block here because it's the first twist of the day. So I'll have you lift your hips and scoot them over to the right a few inches, and then place your hips back down on the floor, and then bring the block in between your knees and let your knees fall over to the left. So those two variations, the knee support and then shifting those hips over, will help your back not take as deep of a twist. And then open your arms in a T, or bring them wherever feels good for you today in this moment, and just breathe here. Notice what feels weary, what feels tight. Notice what feels pretty darn good. Allow your knees to get a little heavier if you can. And as you take a deep breath in, let that whole right side of your rib cage and lower belly, just let it inflate and fill and stretch with the breath. Good. Now we want to come out of this just as softly as we came into it. So go ahead and take the block out of your knees. Lift your top knee, followed by the bottom knee. And then scoot your hips now through center and over to the left a few inches and place them back down. And then the block between the knees, and twist over to your right with your arms in whatever shape feels right. You can gaze over your left arm, or you can look straight up, whatever feels good. What does your spine need this morning? What is your lower back feeling this morning? Take this time to really oxygenate the body by taking nice full deep breaths in through your nose, really expanding the left side of the body. And then exhaling, letting go of anything that you might be holding on to without realizing it. Just intend to release a little more. Good. Now we're going to slide the block out from between the knees. Engage your lower abdominals a little bit, and then bring the top knee and bottom knee back up. And just center yourself here so your hips feel flat on the floor. And your feet can be also on the floor. And we'll grab our straps, and we'll just get into these legs to prepare us for our standing poses. So you can bring the strap around the ball of your right foot. And then just get a sense if you want to keep your left knee bent today, or if you want to straighten it, and honor your body's needs. And we'll get those straps set up, and the arms can rest on the floor so that we're not reaching forward and shortening the chest muscles. So those elbows can stay on the floor, and just really flex the foot and imagine that you could touch your face with your toes. And reach through your heel and feel into the back leg, into your hamstring and calf, and start to do some turning of the key and the keyhole, right? So internal and external rotation of the leg. Feeling that movement coming from deep in the hips, the right hip. And then start to use the straps to help guide your leg into some circles. So we'll stay close to the midline so that your hips aren't rolling around and shimmying everywhere. We want to keep the core nice and stable. And just do some circles, slow circles with the foot and leg. If you get to a place that feels really tight, or you have to go slow to notice it, but if you get to a spot where you go, oh, well, that's not a circle anymore, that just, my leg wants to completely skip over that part, right? Or it's turning into like a hexagon and not really a circle shape. You want to pause there and just softly breathe into the tightness. Breathe into the sensation that you might be feeling. And after you've taken a couple of extra breaths there, then you can continue your circles. And if you haven't changed direction, go ahead and do that now. And keep your breath flowing. Good. And then go ahead and release the strap from that right foot. And squeeze the right knee in toward your chest, and just do some ankle rotations again. Get some blood flow back to the bottom leg. And then cross your right ankle over your left knee or thigh and flex your right foot. And just right from here, before you do anything else, just notice how the right hip feels. Press your right knee away from you toward the bottom or the foot of your mat. And then trying to keep that opening in the thigh and the knee pushing away. Then if you want to lift your left leg up and grab hold of the back of your left thigh, or use a strap to wrap around the back of your thigh, you can do that. So just keeping the right foot flexed and the right knee pressing away from your upper body. And breathe here. Exhale and release your jaw and the muscles of your face. Good. Go ahead and release this side. I'd like you to stretch both legs out now. Just lie flat on the floor for just a moment and shake your legs in and out. So like you're tapping your toes and then releasing. Just a little mini windshield wipers with your feet, and let that movement travel all the way up into your hips. And then start to let that movement come to stillness. And just take a moment to notice the difference between the right leg and the left, the one that you stretched and the one that you haven't yet. Where do you feel a renewed life force, some renewed circulation? Good. And then we'll change over to the left now. So you can bend your right knee if you need to and get your strap set up around the ball of the left foot. You can wrap your hands around your strap if that helps you to hold on without gripping too much. And then decide what you're going to do with your right leg, straight or bent. Shimmy your shoulders down away from your ears if they rode up during the last sequence. And flex your foot quite a bit, as much as you can. Some of you might have a little bend in your knee. That's okay. If you keep your foot flexed, though, it's going to help you get into your calf. And breathe into the hamstring, into the calf. Reach your heel upward and your toes toward your face, toward your nose. And then start to bring some movement to the leg. So internally rotating the whole leg bone, all the leg bones. And externally rotating, just like you're turning the key. The keyhole is where your foot is. So your foot is the key, and the keyhole is invisible. It's just like above you. But feel how the turning starts from the base of the key, right, where you would be holding a key. And bring your breath into this movement. Good. And then you can pause and start to do those circles like we did on the other side. Start really slow so that you don't miss any important information that your body is providing for you. We're going to turn toward the areas that are uncomfortable. It's a perfect time for that, right? During the month of Elul, when we're self-reflecting, when we practice teshuvah or tshuva, when we return and turn toward those things that maybe are hard to see, when these things can be hard to feel as well. Go ahead and change directions. Of course, we don't want to sit and be uncomfortable in our bodies or make ourselves be in a shape that is a stretch that kind of hurts, not in a bad way. Our body, of course, wants to avoid that. So we go slow and we breathe and we bring compassion. Good. You can pause right at center. Take another breath. And then release your strap. Hug your knee in toward your rib cage. do some ankle rotations. And then go ahead and stretch your leg out to meet the other one. And start to move your legs in and out, like tapping the toes toward each other. Just wiggle and jiggle the legs. So you feel that movement, that jiggling, traveling up through your body, right? You feel it in your, even in your back and shoulders a little bit. And then start to release that movement and come to stillness. Good. And then you can hug your knees into your chest again. Give yourself another squeeze. And we didn't do the figure 4 stretch. I knew I was forgetting something. So you're going to take the left ankle over the right thigh and bring that in towards your body, just like the last time. So you want the feet to be flexed. And press the left knee. You can use your hand to press it away, or you can just use your muscles to kind of inch it away from your upper body. Make sure your shoulders and your scapula are down and away from your ears. And just pause here and breathe into that left hip. You can be stable, or you can move a little bit, little micro movements to explore the stretch, how it might change for you if you shift from side to side. Let's take a couple more breaths here. Good, and now go ahead and release that. Take one more full body stretch. So lengthen out the legs, reach your arms up overhead, and just stretch from fingers to toes, like you just woke up and you're just getting a nice lengthening in the body. And then however works for you, you can roll to your side and start to come up onto hands and knees. And we'll start to really move that cerebral spinal fluid in the spinal column with our cat and our cow. Today I'm going to tuck my toes just because I need a little calf stretch. Do whatever you want with your feet. So we're just rounding and arching, connecting your breath to the movement. When you're in your cat pose, really spreading those shoulder blades apart. Imagine that you're stretching the space behind your heart. And then as you inhale and you drop the belly, breathing into the front of the belly, the diaphragm, the muscle that helps us get full deep breaths. Whatever pace works for you today. You can add some side bending. I'm going to do a little, I don't know how to describe it other than it feels like a little bit of a corkscrew. So you can move your hips in circles and then let your head and neck follow. There's really only, you just have to experience it because it would be very hard to walk you through it. But just imagine that your spine is like a little corkscrew. You can go both directions. Just unwinding any tension there. Good. And then open up your knees nice and wide and take a child's pose. You can release your wrists. You can make some circles. Let your palms rest on the mat when you're ready, and just take a few breaths here in child's pose. When you're weary, What feeds you? What enlivens you? What's your sun and your water and your earth? In addition to those actual things, what feeds you and nourishes you? What can you depend on? Go ahead and come forward. We're going to work with our mid-back now with some more rotation. So I'm back in tabletop pose. We'll thread the needle here so you can lift your right arm up and then scoop it under your left arm and extend the left arm out in front of you and just let your mid-back have a nice little twist, a little squeezing and wringing out. As you take a deep breath, feel that compression in the lungs. Imagine that your lungs are getting a little massage as well. Especially with all of the air quality, we really want to focus on exhaling. And then we'll change sides as you're ready. Taking your time, good. And just, you can press that lower arm into the floor a little bit, which helps get the deltoids and the muscles between the shoulder blades, gives them an extra little stretch, if that feels good for you. If you haven't done this in a while though, and we haven't practiced together in a while, just be really gentle, don't push yourself. It's easy to do that and not mean to. Take another couple of breaths here. Good. Let's go ahead and press back up to all fours. We're going to use our blocks now. And if you have sensitive knees, this is a time where you might want to have a little blanket under your knees just for a couple of minutes here. Or you can roll your mat so that it has a couple of layers. And I'm going to start in a lunge here. So my blocks are extensions of my arms. I'm just going to bring my right foot forward and I'm on my left knee. And we'll be moving in and out of this. So as you bend your knee as much as you can, or you come into your lunge as much as you can, just notice where that lands. Is it over your ankle? Is it past your toes? If it's past your toes a lot, maybe just move your foot forward a little bit. It's okay if it's past your toes a little bit, but we're looking for nice inner thigh stretches here. And shoulders back and down. Good. Draw the navel in, and then we'll start to shift back. You can bring your blocks with you and lift your toes of your right foot. So we're getting into the hamstring, but in a more active way than we were on our backs. And then we're just going to walk our blocks forward, come into our deeper lunge, and then exhale, walk back. Those toes reach for the sky. Good. Now you're welcome to pause here in this hamstring stretch if you tend to have if you got tight hamstrings today especially. You can shift your hips forward and back and just notice where that changes the stretch for you. You've got 3 hamstrings back here, so when you shift your hips around, you'll get different parts of the hamstring. Or maybe you'll prefer to be more in your lunge because your inner thighs feel like they need a stretch. So you choose where we're going to spend the next 5 breaths. Maybe you'll do both. But keep your shoulders as relaxed as you can. Good. We're going to come out of this side and sit back on the heels and just round the back, and then arch. So we're doing a little cat-cow on our knees, just releasing the spine before you come into the second side. So that's going to be the left foot coming forward and setting yourself up for whatever lunge feels right for you today. You might want to just kind of move forward and back up a couple of times to find the right setup for yourself. So we'll come into our lunge with the front knee bent, and pull the belly in and relax the shoulders, and just get a nice opening in the psoas, the deep hip flexors on the back leg. And then we'll start to shift the hips back, bring those blocks with you, and lift your left toes up. Play with shifting your frontal hip bones forward and back a little bit, and notice how that changes the quality of the stretch for you. Keep lifting those toes up and pressing your heel into the floor, into your mat. And then you can just decide, what do you need the most today? Where do you need to stay? Or maybe you need to just go back and forth. We're going to take 5 conscious breaths as we settle into whatever we need. Okay, we're going to bring that left leg back, and we'll just come into a child's pose and release the lower back. And then let's come up to standing and bring our massage ball and work on our sweet little feet. I bet your feet need a little bit of love, right? So let's get into the feet. Let's start with the right foot and just look for the places that feel tight. Give these weary feet some love. Keep your breath flowing. Get the whole inside of the foot, the arch, and then go across the top of the foot, the ball of the foot, and then go down the outer edge of the foot. So it's like you're drawing an outline around your foot, especially the middle part. Getting all those reflex points that will bring some new energy to the body. And then change sides when you're ready. Drawing the lines around the edges of your foot. And take another 30 seconds or so to get into any spots that need it. place your ball off to the side and straighten this out. Okay. And then just stand in mountain pose and just notice how your feet feel. You can open the legs just a tiny bit past hip width apart because we're going to start to rock up onto the toes and lift the hands and then come down. Inhale, rocking up. Exhale, pressing back behind you. And on your own, at your own pace, right? With your own breath, because you want to be able to keep your balance. So some of us will move faster or slower than others. So just cultivating some energy. We'll do 2 more. Last one. Good. Legs are wider than hip width. We're going to do some standing twists. Just tapping on the chest and the lower back. Waking up the chi, the life force in the body. Good, we're going to come to stillness for just a moment. Feet are back underneath your hips. Let's do our 3 thumbs. So hands, fingertips under the collarbones, and just start to tap vigorously, breathing in and out through the nose, or in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then we'll bring that thumping, the tapping to the chest, and we'll massage our vagus nerve, which helps with stress, resilience. We're going to let out a nice big ah. Ah, with a smile. Nice, good. And then the rib cage, just tapping or knocking on the ribs. Good. And shake it out. Wonderful. We're going to inhale, reach the arms up. Reach, reach, reach. And then exhale, fold forward with a flat back until you come toward the floor. You might want a block or 2 there underneath you. Your knees can be bent as much as you want them to be, as much as you need. Let the weight of your head go. Let's get some blood flow to the brain. And then pull your belly in. I want you to really squeeze the belly, like you feel like you have a corset, something squeezing from all directions, and keep that squeezing sensation. Look up, start to slide your hands all the way up the front of your body until they come to your hips. Good. And then do some shoulder circles. And we're going to do some brain balancing, because when we get weary sometimes, or when we're in that survival mode with our brains, everything just drops into like reptilian back brain. We want to wake up the prefrontal cortex, this area that is really great at executive functioning and problem solving and clarity, clear thinking. So we're going to wake this area up a bit with some simple techniques. So we're going to march in place and just tap opposite knees. Just why going on walks is so great. You can try to, if you're really feeling like you want to challenge yourself, you could try to bring your elbow to your knee, or just tap with your hands, just crossing the body. Good. And then stop here. Feet are more than hip width apart. Go ahead and clasp your hands in front of you, and then just start to draw like a figure 8, a sideways figure 8. And you can just let your weight shift from side to side. Make sure you cross the midline of your body, making this big sideways 8. Good. And if you want to follow with your gaze, you can do that. You can look at your hands and follow the movement of your hands. Good. And come to center. and shake it out. Just start to shake, 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 shake. Good. Good. Let's just take a couple of standing poses from here. So we'll start with warrior 2 with the right foot forward. So bend your right knee, line up your front foot heel with your back arch. And when we come into our warrior 2 arms, go ahead and flip your palms up. Good. And breathe here. And just come in and out of it with your lower body, just pulsing, drawing the belly in, and just feeling the strength of your legs. So when you bend your knee, look over there and make sure that the knee is just tracking over the ankle or moving toward lining up over the second and third toes and not caving inward. So you want to strengthen the muscles around the knee equally. Good. And then pause in your warrior 2 and reverse your warrior. Drop your back hand, reach your front hand up, breathe. Good, stretch that side body. And then just windmill those arms down so that the right arm comes inside the right leg and the left arm comes up or at an angle with that arm over your ear. Breathe here, pull the belly in and think of rotating the waist so that you're shining your heart a little more forward or up to the sky. On an exhale, pull in your belly, float your arms back up. Good. And then just change your foot position so that your left foot now, left leg is your lead leg. And reestablish your alignment with your feet. So front heel is the left one lined up with the back arch. You might turn your back leg in a little bit more. Come into your open palm warrior 2, just dancing into flexion and extension with the leg. Just enough to like get the blood pumping, right? Not enough to wear you out, just enough to fire things up. And then pause in your warrior 2 and reverse your warrior. Reach up with that left hand. Maybe your gaze is up. Big breath in. Good, and then windmill the arms into side angle. Your choice of what to do with that top arm. But everybody pulls the navel in, presses the hips forward, rotates the chest up just a little bit. And as you exhale, engage the core, come on up. Now your legs are wide, let's go ahead and keep them wide. And just turn the toes so they're all face forward. And squeeze your quads. So I want you to put your hands on your quads and just squeeze them, flex them. And you'll feel the quads lift and the kneecaps will feel like they're lifting up. So I want you to keep the engagement of your quads as you come forward rather than dumping into the back of your knee. So keep your quads engaged, hinge at your hip crease until you find the floor or your blocks. And release your upper body as much as you can, your head, your neck. Even if you have a little bend in the back of your knees, you can still engage your quads. It's kind of a new, it kind of feels strange if you haven't done it before, but if you can kind of try to engage the quads, even with your knees bent if they need to be, that will help free the back of your legs. Take a big breath in and then let out a lion's breath. So that's an open mouth, tongue out, kind of ferocious sound. I want you to stretch your tongue and stretch it out like you could touch your chin with your tongue. Let's breathe in. Lion's breath. Let it all vibrate in your chest. One more time. Let it all out. So there's nothing left. Good. And then wipe your chin and come on up. You can start to heel toe your feet together until you can get your hands on your hips and come up nice and slow. Good. Yay. All right. Just go ahead and shake it out. We're going to come to seated. And we'll just take a seated twist today. So for your seated twist, you can sit on the edge of a blanket if your back is a little tight. And that'll just prop your pelvis forward a bit. And let's bring both legs out in front as our starting position, and then bend the right knee, and you're going to bring that right foot really close to your bottom. And another option is you can cross the leg over the other one, as long as you don't lose your roots, right? You don't want your hip coming up off the floor or the whatever you're on. And then we'll hold on to that knee with our left elbow or hand and take a nice twist. Gaze over your right shoulder. Just massaging these digestive organs with every breath. Our digestion starts to slow down when we are in a stressed state or chronically stressed. So you're just really supporting healthy digestion with your twists. Good, and then let's come out of this side and come into the second side. Whatever you did with the first foot, whether it stayed close to your bottom or crossed over, try to do that with the second side. And gazing over the left shoulder, drop both shoulders away from your ears. So let them come down as you look over your shoulder. Good, and then come on out of this side. We are going to, well, I'm going to give you 1 minute if you have anything else that you need to do, because I'm going to help you set up for more of a restorative Shavasana. So if there's any other stretches you need or you love at the end of your classes, go ahead and take a minute to do those. This is where you're going to need your blanket and 2 blocks to set this up. Okay, so this is also optional. So if you want to do your last couple of stretches and just go straight into Shavasana the way you usually do, go for it. This is for those of you who want a little more of a chest and heart opener Shavasana. So I've got my blanket and I have folded it into thirds so that it's nice and thick and it's wide enough to be along my spine. Right, like this. So if it's too small, it's gonna maybe be a little too intense for your chest opener. So make sure it's folded thickly but flat enough that it covers a good portion of your back. And then your blocks will be like so. You have 1 block lengthwise near the top of your mat, and then the other block is on the medium setting. Like you're almost like you're making a letter T, but the top block is a little higher. So we've got that set up, and then we'll place the blanket right over those blocks. And so the top block's going to hold your head, the bottom block's going to be right between your shoulder blades about, and it makes a little slide, a little angled support here. Once you have your setup, you can just help yourself down. Make sure that your head feels supported. So if it feels like it's dropping back and your neck doesn't feel good, you can even play with setting up your your top block that holds your head to the highest setting. That's something you can play with. That actually feels pretty good. And then your knees can be bent and leaning in toward each other just to take pressure off your lower back. Or if you want an inner thigh stretch, you can take a Supta Baddha Konasana, which is the feet together and the knees open. Practitioner's choice here. You can even have your legs flat. And just start to get as comfortable and supported as you can. This poem is by Alden Salavi from his book Jewish Prayers of Hope and Healing. Rabbi Greninger read this at one of our tefillah sessions recently. I just love it. I wanted to share it with you. It's called Carry Me. God, carry me today with your love, your grace, your wisdom and strength. God, carry me today with your power, your justice, your holiness and law. God, carry me today through stormy winds and rough seas, the obvious and unforeseen challenges and losses, the uneven flow of my emotions, my fears and my shames. Today, God on high, I will not succeed alone. I will not survive alone. I need your majesty and might, your dignity and righteousness to carry me through the day ahead. With you as my rock and shield, I will face this day with an answer to loneliness and dread, misgivings and mistakes, to stand with courage and freedom against misfortune and deceit. God, carry me today. Give me healing hands, a quiet mind, gentle speech, and a forgiving heart. Let me feel you in my chest. Let me feel you in my limbs. Let me feel you by my side. Blessed are you, God of all. You are the answer to those in need. express gratitude for something or someone in your life that strengthens you when you are weary. And take all the time you need to roll to your side and press yourself into a seated position. Bring our hands to our heart and just take a moment of your own time to seal your practice with your own personal prayer. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so.